I begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast is recorded today. Also pay respects to the elders past and present, and extend that respect to any other Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who may be listening today. This is Melanated in Melbourne, a podcast designed to give an insightful look into the Australian lifestyle from the lens of two Black American besties.
Hello and welcome back to Melanated in Melbourne. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Ri'chard.
And this is... Oh, I already said it.
You didn't actually. Oh my God. This whole thing is just going to be...
See? Drew, I hope you're happy.
I'm never... Hello, everyone. I'm Ri'chard.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is Melanated in Melbourne, the podcast where we talk about the highs and lows of living in Australia told from the Black American perspective. Damn it.
What is that? The
Expective.
Expectory?
Fuck this shit.
See, this is what I'm saying. We can't, Drew, I hope you're listening because we're going to be sending you these first 2 minutes. That's why it's so hard to have super intense structure with us.
Intense structure. It
super
is
intense. We couldn't even say experience.
It's because one of us keeps doing the wacky flailing.
Oh, okay. So I'm in trouble. I'm the one that had your mouth saying expectory.
No, you're the one who just kept repeating yourself and going in the corner.
That's what I do. I sound like Doodle Bob. Me hoy, no, me noy.
Anyway, in a career first, Nicole was on time today.
I was. Oh, the soundboard's not activated.
It's not.
Or it is. Okay, that was all right.
Yes. Anyway, so Nicole was actually on time today, but surprisingly, so was my bus. And
pause the podcast and clap in your cars. Thank you.
We'll give you a moment. But again, a broken clock is right 2 times a day anyway. So we're happy for it. I'll give you a clappity clap. I still don't fuck with the bus. Like, we're still beating extra hard. But the fact that it showed up on time, even though it said it was late, but the right amount of late.
Okay.
Because the app said the bus stopped, so I gave up on the bus. I was gonna walk to the tram, and then the bus showed up. So I was like,
"Oh, that's good."
They're like, "See, bitch, I can do it too." I'm like, "Can you?
Yeah.
Can you actually?"
She was gonna be late, but she was just giving that. I don't know if I'm gonna come.
Yeah, it's like, who's all over there?
I don't know if I'm gonna be there.
It's like, I might just pop up. I just show face. I'll just be able to peek through. There's someone I want to talk about that I have talked a lot of shit about in the past.
Oh.
But I don't like them now, but I have a newfound appreciation of this person. And it's Iggy Azalea.
How did I know it was going to be Iggy Azalea? Let's do it.
Only because obviously we talked about her in the past, and
yes.
Like some of her current hits are bops. Like I Am the Strip Club. Cream.
I Am the Strip Club.
Those are great songs.
You can't unbop a bop.
In 2014, when she was blowing up, and everyone was like, "What are you doing?" Igloo Australia. Azalea Banks obviously was not having it. Nicki wasn't having it either.
Yeah.
But now that I live in Australia, and I understand that she was a 16-year-old in New South Wales that moved to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
She was like I think she was country New South Wales.
Walk a mile in my Louboutin.
That's the song I listened to again.
They don't wear this shit with Afro.
No, but if you think about it, they sure fucking don't. And you think about, like, she saved up her money and then moved to Florida and grew up in Florida, and that's the kind of rap that she gave us. She's like, I'm Australian who grew up in Florida, and it makes so much more sense. Like, I understand Iggy Azalea now because having lived here, and like she makes a reference to the red dirt because like the red center of Australia.
In the red dirt school, sugar cane back lane, 600 to this day. But I got a ticket on that plane. People got a lot to say.
Exactly. No, I literally re-listened to work while I was
No, money, no, family. 16 in the middle of Miami.
So, like, when you think about it like that, when you put it in perspective, you know what? I have a little bit of respect for the girl. She's still not a great rapper, but she can make it.
Let it be clear. She's still not good.
She's still not good, but I understand her. I like her. At the gym today, and I was like, because Cream came on, and I was like, and then in my head, work popped up, and I'm like, she's Australian, but she's like not. No. Because she grew up most of her life in America. But 16 is a good amount of age. So she still has her accent. And she still probably kept some Australian things. But it was just like, you were such a hybrid of a person. Like, I'm thinking about me. I moved here at 26. And I still feel slightly like a hybrid. If I moved here at 16, I would definitely just be a very confused individual.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get that. I think it was just... Listen, can't make the bops unbop. Like, she's got some songs that I'm just like, listen, I don't know what's happening. My ass is just shaking.
Listen,
like, I have no control of this.
Even in the period where we didn't like her, like Black Widow, like a Black Widow, baby. You can't not.
I mean, okay, don't get me wrong. I understand the complaints against her for sure. And for a good amount of time, the reason why I would do the Australian accent, because I was like, well, she gonna do a black girl American accent, then I'm gonna just do this shit. You can call me Niggy Australia, but
nope. I need a moment. I need a moment. No, you can't. You cannot go Niggy Australia.
I am.
And keep moving like nothing happened.
This is what we doing.
I regret bringing.
Walk a mile in me Ugg boots. No. I feel it. Wow. I'm feeling musical today. I mean, there's going to be a couple song breaks.
Oh God. I mean, it's understandable considering that the topic today is about the lockdowns, and if we didn't go a little bit crazy during those lockdowns, you didn't survive through those lockdowns. So I actually pulled up the little stats because we've teased the lockdowns because we had the longest in the world.
We did.
262 days. I literally looked it up yesterday because I come with some facts.
262 days of lockdown. That was crazy. So like 100-something days of freedom. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
So I mean, damn near a year of us just being in lockdown. So
in the house,
occasionally outside, a few little picnics here and there.
Occasionally, just a sprinkle of
outside adjacent.
Outside adjacent, just a sprinkle of outside. Oh
but
man,
it was absolute chaos. I mean, we met each other in the middle of these lockdowns.
We
so
sure
there's
did.
a lot of history. Like it would be a huge miss to not talk about the lockdowns.
It is, yeah. And like you said, Melbourne was the most locked down city in the world. I think outside of Wuhan, like we were up in the house.
We held it all the way down. Like I learned some things about my four walls I never knew. We started talking to these walls. Like, if these walls could talk, I'm like, they did talk. We had conversations.
Oh.
But
I was thinking of other walls, but that's all right. I understand what you're saying.
I know which kind of walls you're talking about.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm a homosexual. We don't call those walls. We don't call those walls.
Okay, I was going to ask what we do call them, but I understand we got to get back on topic. We'll save it for the dating episode.
He's like, I'm wet. I was like, no, you're not, sweetheart. That's my revenge.
Chaotic.
That's my revenge for Nicki Australia.
This is so chaotic.
All right, so essentially what we're going to do is going to walk through each of the lockdowns because random shit happened in the lockdowns. So the first lockdown, the entire world had the same ones. Yeah. And then various lockdowns, restrictions. Yeah. What was it? Tiger King popped in. Like, there's a lot of things that happen in between all these. So we'll just.
Wow, I'm so sure there's going to be so much information that is going to be triggered back to me because I think my brain has sealed off those years.
Oh, absolutely.
In my head, and it's not until because now that you've said Tiger King, I'm like, holy shit.
Yep.
Oh my God, it actually happened. But I would like to start at the very beginning because at the beginning of 2020, we were excited. We're like, oh my God, new decade. We were amped. I remember calling my little cousins in Colorado. We were all turned because it was New Year's Eve. And they were just like, 2020, we're going to fuck this year in the mouth. Word for word. And I was like, yeah, that's right, girls. We're going to take it. We're going to do it. And we're going to blah, blah, blah. And we're going to like do everything to the best of our ability this year. And March rolled around, and oh my God, we got humbled.
I think you skipped something though.
Uh-oh.
Do you not remember when Australia was on fire? Australia was on fire first.
Oh, that's right.
We weren't even worried about COVID.
Australia was crispy at the beginning of the year.
Like that was the Black Summer. Yes. And it was so bad that my asthma came back. Like people were walking around with masks for that one because of the bushfires coming in. And then it was like, oh yeah, the fire stopped. We had like 2 weeks of freedom. And then March hit and was like, hey, what do you think you're doing? Because my birthday's in March.
Oh, yeah.
And as COVID starts spreading, because we heard about COVID at the start of the year. Because it's called COVID-19. Obviously, it started getting really big for us in 2020.
Yeah.
But it was like COVID-19's like, oh, that's something over there. That's something over in America. Yeah. That's something that's not going to affect us. Because we're worried about our country being on fire. Like the whole thing was just on fire. We're like, yep, this is fine. Like that dog sitting on the table. This is fine. I'm not worried about this. Yeah. And then COVID's like, hey,
man,
is it my turn? When you're finished.
Okay. I guess it's my turn. Let me go and put this virus on your sideburns.
Get out. Get out of here, Nikki.
I will not be silenced. Okay, but no, it really was like that. I remember watching videos of people like in the hospitals. This virus has popped up and it was knocking people out in the street. People were like passing out. You were watching doctors in full PPE just falling down outside the hospital. And I remember looking at the footage and just being like, oh, this doesn't look good, but hopefully it won't be too bad. Narrator, it was terrible. It was so bad.
No, it was bad. Wild. Like when I initially started writing notes for the COVID thing, before I checked all this out, because looking at this article, just looking at all the things, like that was a lifetime. Like surely someone is going to write a TV show about our experience. Like I don't want to do it because it's a big feat, but someone's got. Maybe we'll write it down because we've already said this and it's going to be the internet. Yeah. Like we can sue someone for trying to steal my idea, but
yeah, you better lawyer up.
Yeah, we know lawyers. We don't have one on retainer yet, but
not yet.
We know them.
But we know them.
But it's like in that first bit of lockdown, the entire world was locked down. So it's like that's when everyone was like making bread, banana bread.
Okay, I'm so happy you're bringing this out because I would love to know what lockdown internet activity you took part in, like the bread baking.
No,
absolutely not.
Absolutely, I don't.
Definitely not.
I don't like bananas. I don't like bread. So. Like I like some bread, like garlic bread, yes. But regular bread, absolutely not.
I mean, yeah, I totally understand that. I mean, like I get we were stuck in the house, but we didn't have to go all the way back to colonial times and start baking our own bread.
It was too much for me. I learned how to drink gin in lockdown.
You learned how to drink gin?
I always thought it tasted like pine cones. Like it still kind of does.
Pine cones.
It does. It tastes like the forest.
Pine cones.
It's very zesty and like forest.
It tastes like a zesty forest.
Honestly, though, that in my head, that's what gin tasted like. So I started with flavored gins, like pink gin blew up. Like pink, I don't know if pink gin showed up like around late 2019.
Yeah.
But pink gin was just on sale every time, and the liquor stores because that was an essential service because Australians needed their alcohol.
We should listen.
Grocery stores and liquor stores were always open, so everyone developed a little bit of alcoholism, but it was okay because we were doing it together.
We were doing it together. It was the group activity.
It was.
It was the group activity.
It was a team assignment that no one failed.
Correct, because we would get our drinks, and then everybody would jump on the computer and be like, hey.
Zoom trivia.
Okay, that is the trend that I was totally in. Like, if people were throwing parties on Zoom and stuff, I was there. Because I was like, what else I got to do?
Absolutely nothing.
What else do I have to do? I understand some people, they would sit on Zoom all day long for work, so they had their fill. But for me, anytime somebody was doing something on Zoom, like a party, some trivia, I was there.
So, like, because I work for the government, a lot of people got fired. So, for Australia at least, when people got fired, they had JobKeeper and JobSeeker, which gave people like $7.50 a fortnight each thing. I want to say
the government paid you money if you missed out, if you got fired.
If you got fired, if you're looking for work. People were paid, so people in Australia were
missed
just
out
on
on work.
Some money. Like it wasn't a lot of money, but it was better than the nothing people were getting in America.
Correct.
Like that one stimulus package
of
$1,200.
Please.
I think there were two stimmies. Like 2 stimmies of this. I'm like, you gave us $2,000
to make it through an entire year.
Absolutely not. So like Australians were getting $7.50 every 2 weeks minimum for things. So like they were just living. And that was being spent on supporting local businesses by takeaway food, takeaway alcohol.
Local businesses, she says with air quotes.
Exactly.
Because other goods and services were being purchased. But
they counted, they mattered.
They mattered. They went into somebody's pocket. Like, it put some food on somebody's table. But, yeah, it was good to be in a place that if things got a little too real, you at least had some money to support you.
Exactly. So that first lockdown for us was about 2 months. And one of the things that Australia did really well was, like, we locked down hard or locked down fast. Our numbers were nothing. Like, we got down to zeros. I think it took a note somewhere that we had, like, 0 cases for, like, repeatedly throughout all the lockdowns. We had 0 cases for, like, 80 to 60 days at different times. Like, they were very serious about lockdown numbers.
Totally. But you know who was the first person to have COVID over here?
Was it you?
No, bitch. Oh. It was not me. It was Tom Hanks.
Oh,
Tom Hanks and his wife, Rita, they were up in Australia. They were like, hey, everybody, I'm Woody the Cowboy. It turns out I have COVID. I was like, if you don't get your sick ass out of here, please.
I was actually worried the world was going to get mad at us if we killed Tom Hanks.
What that got to do with us?
Tom Hanks is like the American sweetheart. Like,
I get it.
But if he got COVID here and died...
No, I think he brought, I don't know where he got the COVID from. I don't know if he brought it with him. He had it in New South Wales,
though. Just for the record, he had it in Sydney, not in Melbourne.
Oh.
Just so that everyone knows. I don't know if that's true, but I know he didn't have it here. I'm just throwing the blame.
That could be a lie, but you know what?
I just know it wasn't Melbourne, so.
It wasn't Melbourne.
Fact check me.
Yeah.
But. No, so that first 2 months, like, we were really good about COVID. Like, we kind of got it down to nothing, and we're like, yeah, cool. Everyone gets out. So that happened around when we started loosening our restrictions. It was around May-ish.
Okay.
But that's around May is when there was a scandal about hotel quarantine.
Oh, hotel quarantine. That's right. Because they were, oh my gosh, this is so sad that my brain is now like, yes, remember this? Because hotel quarantine, like, when people were flying into Australia, rather than just releasing them to the masses, which is understandable, we're going to put them in a hotel for at least 2 weeks, 14 days?
It was 2 weeks.
And once they are cleared after those 14 days, they will be allowed to go out into the public. A great idea in theory, not so great for the people having to stay there, because quickly we found out that these hotels were not being ran with the best personnel. We found out that they were like, what were they? They were hiring people like.
You're being real political about this. Security guards were fucking people in hotel quarantine and taking COVID home.
Oh,
that's what happened.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know what you were thinking
Oh my
about.
God, no, because I was trying to be diplomatic.
You were, and I'm like,
I was trying to be diplomatic.
There's no need for it. We're telling
the
truth
tea
here.
was scorching, because that's right, because we were doing well with our numbers. We had people in hotel quarantine, and then somebody bent their dick up in someone in one of the quarantine hotels and brought home COVID to his family.
Yep.
Oh,
and it wasn't just one person. Like, it was multiple people, because there were multiple house outbreaks.
He was digging down multiple people.
I think there were multiple security guards.
Oh man.
But that actually led to a whole inquiry about like what's happening in hotel quarantine, who's like hiring these people, who's running these things. But because of that, like our COVID was so good, because there was a certain point like Rain on Me dropped during that time period, and when
shout out to Ariana and Lady Gaga.
Exactly. Like when Chromatica came out, it came out during lockdowns. It was like one of the things, like Chromatica and Animal Crossing saved a lot of people during that first lockdown. But I remember being in lockdown being like, I can't wait to dance to Rain on Me in a club, and we got to, because we got out of lockdown pretty early, and there was like a rival video. Actually, I think Lady Gaga shared a viral video of Circa, people dancing, singing Rain on Me, because we took care of COVID so well.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But then hotel quarantine came out, and because they couldn't track where those people were going,
correct,
they could track where that COVID was. They're like, ooh,
yes,
another lockdown. So our second lockdown started June 2020.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And the funniest part was the idea here was that we would only have to lock down for like 2 weeks, and this is like in March. People are like, if we just go inside for 2 weeks, we'll be good. We'll be straight. Little did we know, it was not good nor great, because shit got out of hand, but it wasn't as bad as other places in any way. Yeah, in any way, shape, or form.
Because around that first lockdown really messed up Italy. Like, the world watched what happened in Italy.
Exactly. Italy was crazy.
And then New York had the exact same thing, but it was because their population density was wild.
Correct. And the amount of places that you can contract it in New York. It's like, because I love New York forever. It is the dirtiest city. It's just so many people. And it runs 24 hours.
And they're all stacked up on top of each other.
Correct.
So you cannot... Like, people, huge families in 2-bedroom apartments doing all these things.
The air's that's circulating in the building, you guys getting in the same elevator, same stairwell, you're getting in the cabs, you're getting in the subways, all the surfaces that you're touching, and this is an airborne virus, so it was just a recipe for disaster. It was really sad. So yeah, we were watching what was going on in Italy and New York and just being like, oh, well, we do not want that to happen over here.
Not at all.
So we were just like, all right, if we got to stay inside and hold it down, like, it sucks, but like, so be it. But OMG. But I also want to mention that Australia had really good contact tracing, which was a big benefit.
Oh yeah, like that was, so the second lockdown, the one that started in June, was actually our longest one, and I think that's the one where everyone went a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
I think so. It was 111 days for this lockdown. It was from it was from July to October, just before Halloween.
Wow.
2020. So
that's right.
Your first lockdown birthday.
My first lockdown birthday.
The first lockdown birthday. So in that time period, that was around Tiger King popping up. That's when we actually had a curfew. There was a point in.
That's right.
There was a point where Victoria had a curfew. It was like after, I think it was 8 p.m. You had to be at home because cases were like rampant. There was no vaccine in sight, and Australia is very particular about the medicines. When the vaccine was moving in America and in Europe, they're like, we'll wait to see what happens to them first. And like that's actually my mentality as a person, but as someone who wanted to go outside, I was like, you know what, just give it to me.
Yeah.
Just give it to me. I've eaten things. I don't know the ingredients, half the food, like drinks, all of it. No, I don't.
In 2009, I was drinking Four Locos, so there ain't nothing about a vaccine that could scare me. So
honestly, though, like if you think this can help me, I was just having that because it was fun. Like,
like that's why I could not understand people being, I don't know, like people have politicized something that is just literally science, and it's just like, y'all, we have put way more questionable things in our bodies. Like, I personally was not scared of the vaccine, but it was pretty funny, the hubris, I agree, of Australia being like, no, let them other people get the vaccine first.
Tell me what's in it,
yeah. We can wait, which was, hubris.
It was wild. And this is also around the time that there were all the fines.
Oh,
You were fined for breathing wrong, for looking wrong, for smelling wrong.
First of all, no, they weren't.
Yes, they were.
Like, I mean, these people, because they had the curfew. You had to be inside the house by a certain time, but there was also a radius that you were allowed to travel in. And I think it was 5 kilometers. You weren't allowed to stray too far from home, but people were getting stir crazy. It was 100-something days, so people were like...
People were just doing it.
They were like, I need to just go and explore something else.
And when the Bubble Buddies, do you remember Bubble Buddies?
Bubble Buddies?
Yeah, it's the Bubble Buddies. So, like,
no, please tell me.
No one could be in your house at the time. You couldn't have any guests over, but if you lived alone, they allowed you to have a Bubble Buddy. You had to be in your 5K radius, but it has to be your partner, you're this, you're that, but you don't have one Bubble Buddy. But people's Bubble Buddies that was not a thing. Like, she was like, to be like, oh, this is my Bubble Buddy, but I'm also her Bubble Buddy, and I don't want her to be alone, so they're just bouncing around through these three houses. Like, well, since we're all each other's Bubble Buddies, let's just hang out together. Like, people were just skimming the rules so hard, because, like, at this point, they were already stir crazy. We were back in. The rest of the world basically said, fuck it.
Yeah.
At this point,
because the rest of the world said fuck it early.
They said fuck it so early. They were like, social distance, kind of. We'll eat outside, sort of. The vaccines were slowly coming in towards the end of this lockdown, but they're like, we got vaccines, take it or die.
Yeah.
That's the way the rest of the world was.
Which was crazy, because I remember towards the beginning of the pandemic, it was like, we think it's going to be years before we get a vaccine.
Yep. And they said that.
And they said they were like, it's going to be a long time. And then I ended up following the doctor who developed most of the pathology for the vaccine being used, Dr. Kizzy. She was so fabulous. She walked through everything. She was like, this is how the protein is synthesized, and this is how we do all this, and broke it all the way down. So I was like, that's so fabulous, because we had a SARS outbreak about a decade before that. That was in like...
Oh, yeah, I remember SARS, like 2009-ish?
Yeah, it was like a decade before that. And so they had developed a vaccine then for that one. So I think the one that we got now is just a derivative of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And because it's called, SARS something
correct.
2.
SARS-CoV-2. Yes.
And that's why I was just like, it's a similar thing. And they're like, yeah, another one's going to come soon. Yeah, probably. So
another fuck-ass cousin.
It will. It honestly will. It's like, is it my turn? Just waiting in the wings.
God.
But one of the other things, like, because you mentioned contact tracing so well,
yes.
We were very big on QR codes. Do you remember QR codes?
Oh, my God. We had to check in everywhere we went.
It was...
Another thing my brain has just completely forgotten about.
Literally, I went through a whole wormhole, because like when I was reading the article, because I hopped on Wiki, just did a little research, because again, after surviving this, you just kind of put like, that is a thing that'll just be triggered at some other point, but I'm like, I'm going to access this now. So I was just on my couch just being like, oh, wow, that happened. I'm like, oh, my God, there's this. So I was like, my notes from just like remembering things, it just goes on forever.
Oh, my God, this is the longest notes. It looks like my karaoke list. Like, it is
it's not that long.
It's so long, though. But Australia had very, very good contact tracing. So when there would be like, oh, we found out that there's a positive case that was at the supermarket or something like that, they were able to notify all the other people who had checked in via QR code and told them, like, listen, you might have got.
Yeah, you might got. So
you
check
might
it
got.
out. And that was still when the isolation period was still 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was just an absolute mess. One of the favorite things I didn't understand during lockdown, do you remember Sexy Sutton?
I don't think I want to remember this.
It's too late. It's happening regardless.
Oh, God.
So the chief medical officer was named Brett Sutton.
Okay.
And every day he would hop on to give us COVID information. Yeah, have a look at him.
I'll be the judge of that.
I don't agree personally, but the white gays were all over it.
They were a bit feral at the time. I don't know if I could...
Yeah, you really. Yeah, honestly, if you're like anything's looking good, that wall has been flirting with me. You better stop.
Oh, girl. I mean,
you can be mad at me, but he's average looking.
He looks like.
It's just because I think it's like Stockholm syndrome because you see him every day.
I'm like, he looks like he can teach a mean geometry class. I don't know if I'm seeing sex appeal personally.
No.
I mean, I'm not seeing it, girls. I'm sorry. Okay, continue.
No, that wasn't for me either. But because he kept coming on every single day telling everyone, this is what's happening with COVID. We're getting another extension, getting whatever. That was the highlight of some people's days. And that's obviously now it's very sad to think about.
The girls were horny.
They were so horny. It's embarrassing. But listen, I knew someone who named their dog after him.
Okay, see? Why can't y'all, we can enjoy something and then y'all need to just let it go.
It doesn't. It is not how that works.
That was like this, yeah. Sorry, let's finish with Sexy Sutton before I tangent off to the next thing.
No, Sexy Sutton, that bounced around for a while. It's like hashtag Sexy Sutton. Like, you could probably check Twitter. There'd be really old tweets, but they were thirsting hard. Like, his smile was kind of cute, but it was not for me. It's giving
Joe Dragonello. It is just giving a low.
Joe Dragonello.
Joe Maganello is really hot.
Oh, you mean Maganello?
This guy looks like he's just.
Magic
you know what?
Mike
Let me not be mean.
Yeah, you're attacking this man for no reason.
I am. You're right.
It was a singular point, and you're like, no, I'm mad. How dare y'all?
Because it doesn't make sense. Because I think it was the same thing happening in the States with Anthony Cuomo and stuff, and people were calling themselves Cuomo-sexuals.
You mean that old ass man?
I think, was he the governor? Was he the senator of New York? I can't remember. But people were and then his brother,
Andrew Cuomo,
and then his brother was on CNN.
Yes, and then he had to resign for some other scandal.
Correct.
I remember that.
Correct. Yes, and people were calling themselves Cuomo-sexuals, and I'm just just rub one out. I just didn't understand.
Sometimes you need to pray.
I just couldn't understand, but it's just so hard for people to let go of things, and that's how I felt about the Tiger King stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I felt about the Tiger King stuff. I watched it. It was, that was some trash foolishness.
I didn't watch the second season because I'm like, this is giving me
second season.
This gives me trigger flashbacks. But that first season, it's all everyone talked about. That was just, that went through the roof. I was like, yeah, I'll watch it, but only because everyone was talking about it. I'm like,
everyone was talking. What else? And what else were we supposed to do?
What else were we doing? Absolutely nothing. So that went off, and that was great. But another thing that I really thought was interesting. So again, because that was the second longest lockdown that we had. Well, it actually was technically the longest lockdown we had. The second longest one was the last one, but we'll get there a bit later. We had a Ring of Steel.
Okay.
So the Ring of Steel was essentially similar to the 5-kilometer radius because regional Victoria, they were so far spread out, they could socially distance. They didn't have COVID like we did.
And they probably weren't being policed.
No, they weren't. Cause,
they were out there.
They all live on these farms. They have all this land and space. And if your cousin doesn't have it, you're not going to get it. So their COVID was great. So we got locked out. Or they got locked out of us. I don't know what it was. Actually, there was just a Ring of Steel literally around Melbourne City because that's where all of the COVID was. And anyone who tried to sneak through for work, they had to have all these permits and there was all these things. And it was a huge issue. But when we got out of the lockdown around Halloween, I personally was looking at Halloween costumes that had masks. I was thinking about being Sub-Zero because it was you could obviously have a mask on. It's a thing. But that didn't happen. Halloween was very much a sit. We couldn't stand and drink. I just remembered that. We could not stand and drink.
That's right. We did our Halloween celebration that year. We did it outside as a picnic kind of thing.
Who did?
A group of friends that I used to be friends with.
Okay.
Yeah, we went outside and had a Halloween picnic, and we were just so excited to be outside and dressed in costumes because that was pretty much all we could do. Because yes, you weren't allowed to sit and drink.
You weren't allowed to stand and drink.
Excuse me. You weren't allowed to stand.
You couldn't stand and drink because standing moves the virus around, but if you're sitting, it holds the virus in space. When you say it out loud, years later, it sounds stupid. You're telling me air stops because I'm sitting down, but when I'm standing, it's flying around. When I'm speaking, it's flying around. Sitting or standing.
We were doing everything.
We were doing everything.
We were trying everything. We didn't know what to do.
It's if you sneeze into your elbow or the back of your knee or do a handstand.
The back of your knee?
Just do something. Do an inverted sneeze. Go,
oh my God. Reverse sneeze. Sneeze through your eyes. Yeah. I don't know. They were just.
It was
so crazy. I remember them having a similar rule because when I ended up going up to Sydney to record the game show, and there was no lockdown up there, so we were like out and about. But yeah, like you weren't allowed to dance in the clubs.
There was no dancing.
Like, no dancing allowed.
Maybe that's why they don't dance anymore, because COVID killed dancing. Maybe Australians don't dance because COVID killed it. Like, I'm afraid I'll get COVID if I dance.
It's either that or the rhythm. But
it's just the rhythm of
my life. Oh yeah, the rhythm of the night. This is the.
So obviously between then and the third lockdown, there was a little bit of space. We were like, oh, we're kind of free, we're kind of cute, we're kind of safe. But as New Year started getting closer, that's when COVID started picking up again. And people were scared that because obviously Halloween was canceled, but Thanksgiving, like not Thanksgiving, just any kind of like family gathering of sorts was very minimized. So like you only have 5 people over, you only have 10 people outside. New Year's was coming. And at that point, we were kind of good. We'd gone 60 days without any cases. But then as New Year's started creeping up, we started getting cases again. And there was still no vaccine yet.
Yes.
So it was just like, are we going to... You gonna lock us down on New Year's Eve? Because everyone was so stir crazy after doing 100-something days in jail. I'm gonna call it jail. Everyone's apartment felt like jail. I did my time. So at that point, that's when people started to break. Yeah. Because when it was like the thought about New Year's Eve being canceled, have all these parties being canceled, they're like, no, we're still doing it. So it still happened, but they, I think they knew there would be a revolt, like a full-on revolution. People would just be throwing things over if they couldn't get drunk with their friends on New Year's Eve. So I think they reduced the capacity from like 10 people in your house, like 5 or 15 people in your house, so 10 people or something small. Yeah. Everyone broke that rule. Everyone got COVID anyway. So now we've already survived the first 2 lockdowns, which is mostly just the February to May and July to October, which is a good chunk of the year. And then we're very just anxious the rest of the year. Yes. Fast forward to about in January, COVID cases are rising again. Yes. And funnily enough, it's the year of my 30th birthday, so I'm like, oh, we're out of COVID. I started tentatively making plans because, like, we were in and out of lockdowns. Last year, my birthday got canceled because the lockdown happened, like, a week after my birthday, but they start recommending you not have people over. So I was like, I really shouldn't have anyone over. So, like, I think we had, like, 2 or 3 people over for a cake, and we're like, yay, birthday, because I was going to have a big party. I was going to have a big party.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a milestone birthday. Like, a lot of,
Well, no, this is 2020.
So
2020 is when the first lockdown happened. Yeah. So my birthday was just, because I always celebrate my birthday. I always celebrate birthdays. I celebrate milestones because if you don't celebrate yourself, who is going to? No so one. I celebrate all my birthdays, and I'm just very much in it. So when my 30th was coming, I was like, oh, we just got out of the lockdown, but it's looking kind of okay. And I was like, 30 in my head was grown man shit. Like, I was like, I'm a grown man. This is what I'm going to do. I wanted to do this grown man shit for myself. I wanted to buy a record player. Oh, cute. And I'm like, in my mind, owning a record player was so mature, it was so cool, it was so anything. Because I worked in the government, there was always like little whispers that everyone would hear, like, oh, it sounds like there might be a lockdown. There's always whispers, and 9 times out of 10 they were true. So on the day I was going to
you getting it from the source, so.
And it was like, people just like, oh, I think they're going to do this. I'm like,
because they sitting in the meetings being like, girl.
In those meetings, like, girl, guess what I just heard? Girl, tell me what?
Yeah.
But on the day of the third lockdown, I went to a record store. I did my research because I like to do a deep dive and just kind of hyperfixate on things. Went to this record store, and this guy was trying to sell me on these things. Had a conversation, super lovely. But one of the things that I do when I'm trying to get help with something, I flirt. I flirt with everyone. It's just a natural thing. Like, flirting and networking are the exact same thing to me. I don't know the difference.
Flirting and breathing, really.
Literally. Honestly. So I'm talking to this guy. We're going back and forth. He's telling me all these things. He's super knowledgeable, and I'm very curious about it. So I'm like, I'm listening. I'm attentive. I'm asking these questions.
Fluttering your eyelashes.
Of course. It's like, oh, tell me about what this button does. And it spins in a circle? What? Oh my God. That's so crazy. Tell me more. No, so at the time, one of the record players I wanted to buy was out of stock. He's like, oh, we can order it and get it to you on Wednesday. And I was like, sir, I'm going to level with you. I'm pretty sure we're going into a lockdown in about 3 hours. So I want to buy this record player and go home and cry.
Yes.
And he's like, fair enough. Let me see what we got. So he went to the back, and he like knocked off $100 to his record player. Oh, so it was like $100 more than I was going to play, but it was $100 less than that would have been. So I'm like, I'll meet in the middle, happy, cool, go lucky. Took that record player home, bought 4 records in the store, went home, and was like, this is my thing. And I bought so many records to fill that void during that, and that's how I ended up with my addiction.
Oh my gosh.
I have a lot of records now.
It is such a very cool addiction.
It is.
Now,
expensive.
Now this is triggering my memory because we had a lot of stop-start with our lockdown. So the government would announce you're going into lockdown at this time at night, and you would have that amount of time to run out and get your things and get your shit before we had to go into lockdown.
Yep.
And I remember it was February. It was hot. We'd actually just met like 2 weeks before that. That was our first meeting. Yeah, and 2021 was when I started doing background acting work. And that was our times when we could actually even escape the lockdown, because if you got called in to do background acting, you would actually be able to leave.
Yeah, you'd have a little
lockdown.
permit and everything.
You would have a little permit and you'd be able to go to work. And I was like, oh, this is good. And you get a little outside time and everything. But they were telling us that the production was going to be halted because we were about to go into lockdown. We're all sitting there, and it was such a cute show too. It was Miss Fisher's Modern Murder Mysteries, and we were dressed up in cute little 60s style costumes and hair and makeup, and we're all looking at our phones sitting under the tree being like, oh shit, we're going into lockdown tonight. So it's going to be, and not even, but I think like maybe the lockdown started at like 12 midnight.
Yeah, they would do like 11:59 sometimes.
Yes, which meant like, we were like, when can we get out of this? Because we have to go and like just go
to the liquor store, get some food, get all the
pulverized, and just go party, because we don't know how long this next lockdown is going to be.
Absolutely. And it
February.
was, that was a wild ass time. So like that lockdown was only 5 days. So some of the lockdowns were promised to be short, and they were actually short. Like this was the first one that it actually was. But we were all traumatized and triggered, like, 5 days, okay, bitch.
Yeah, but we were like, yeah, we had just been through it.
Yeah, we had fully been through it. So that one was literally just a week. It was just 5 days in and out, and we're like, oh.
Yes.
You told us the truth?
Yeah, I know. And Dan Andrews was talking shit and posting COVID numbers like, per bitch, only zero cases, bitch.
I said what I said. You do this. You give to me, I give to you. Scratch my back, you scratch yours. I was like, this man actually started to have a little bit of attitude, and I loved it. He sure did,
and I was living for it. I was like, talk your shit. You keeping us alive and shit. Like, what am I going to say?
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things that was like really well known for Victoria was he would hop on, Dan Andrews would hop on the V, and he'd be wearing a North Face jacket. And if he's wearing his North Face jacket, that meant we were getting out of lockdown. If he was wearing a suit, we're staying into lockdown. Like, people started to notice if we were getting extended, he'd be in a suit. And if he was in North Face, I might have had that backwards, but I know that was the difference. Like, North Face, like, oh, okay, he's relaxed, we can relax. If it's in a jacket, like, I'm so sorry, I'm tighten up restrictions, I got to put the tight suit on. And one of my favorite things is they, like, Australian politicians are so relaxed.
Yes, and sorry, just for our American listeners, Dan Andrews was our
premier.
Our premier, which is like, I want to say governor, but it's more.
It's kind of like the state governor, because he's over Victoria.
Like a senator,
but he's over Victoria. So like governor's the closest.
Governor,
okay, governor's the closest thing, and the prime minister's
like as an American equivalent. But yeah, he had a lot of
power. So he's essentially the one who was calling all the lockdowns.
Sorry, but you were saying.
No, so Australian politicians are so relaxed. Like they are very much like. When the lockdowns ended, like he was actually in the conversation about, to get this lockdown over, you got to do this, and you can get on the beers.
Yes! Oh, that's right!
Yeah, I wrote
Get on the beers was born. He was just like, listen, y'all, you just need to be inside the house. If you just stay in for this amount of time, then you can get out and get on the beers. And I was like, all right.
And they made it into a song. The artist was Mashed and Kutcher. Instead of Ashton Kutcher, Mashed and Kutcher. MASHD in KUTCHER. I don't want to play because I don't know how much our legal rights.
Let's do it. Are you going? Mashton gonna sue us?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Y'all have no fun. Get on the beers.
So that song went viral. Oh my
God, it did go viral.
And like he would just be on the radio just talking about getting on the beers, and people like, you guys are like being dickheads essentially, and someone's like mucking it up for the rest of us. And one of the lockdowns ended, and they're like, what are you gonna do now the lockdown's over? You're gonna get on the beers, because obviously he knew about the music video, and he's like, no, I'm going for something higher on the shelf. This man said, I'm gonna get fucked up.
He was so shady. He was so shady.
He's like, y'all have the beers, I'm getting fucked up. I'm getting the good spirits because I am tired. And that, honestly, like there was plenty of people who were like Dictator Dan. They were super upset about the whole thing.
But they were so upset about it. And I was just like, what do you think the alternative is to this? Like, it didn't make any sense.
It made absolutely no sense. And it was just like, honestly, mad respect to him. I would not want that job. I would not. Never, ever. The amount of stress you would go through.
He got the shit end of the stick because, mind you, it was a global pandemic. We were figuring shit out on the fly. Like sitting down while drinking, we were just figuring shit out on the fly because we did not know. And he had to take anything that didn't work, he had to take the brunt of that.
Yeah, it's like if it didn't work, you suck. If it worked, yeah, but this thing didn't work. Like there was never a winning. So like never. By no means do I think he did everything perfectly. Nah. No one does. But it was so unprecedented. I don't think I could have done a better job.
I couldn't have.
I'm not going to talk shit because I can't.
I sure won't. I totally agree. Yeah.
One of the things I actually forgot to mention during this time, because Melbourne hosts the Australian Open.
Oh,
and the Australian Open.
That's right, in January, the big tennis.
Because obviously in 2020 it was fine because COVID didn't start doing anything till March. But 2021, they didn't cancel games in the middle, but they made it crowdless.
Yes, crowdless, that's right.
It's like they had it going until COVID, like we started getting close to the restrictions again. We had a lockdown coming, and that's like towards the end of the Open. So the finals were played crowdless of the Australian Open.
Which was haunting.
It was
watching sports without crowds.
So uncomfortable.
Very.
And I think a few other sports also. AFL did footy did crowdless things as well, and that was so strange to watch.
Very
dystopian, even.
It was hilarious because the year before there was like a big thing with the over policing of the crowds and stuff, people getting kicked out for yelling, and it was just this weird point of contention between the fans of AFL and the AFL.
Yeah.
And then it got into lockdown and there were no crowds there, and you realize you're like, oh no, these two things really need each other.
Absolutely. Crowds make the game. The grand final last week, they were screaming. That would have rumbled. Rumbled all of Richmond.
Rebumbled.
Rebumbled.
I don't know why you just pointed a wand at me.
Because I killed you with rebumbling.
No.
So, one of my questions for you, because around this point was we'd already done a year and a half of being locked in.
Yeah.
How did you deal with your homesickness? Like, how were you feeling at that time?
I mean, not great. Yeah, not great. I just thought, I was just like, because I was just wondering, I was like, wow, when is the next time I'm going to be able to see my family? It was terrible and difficult, and just like thinking, because we said that we didn't know when we were going to get a vaccine. So I was like, is it going to be years before I can see my family and my parents? Like, it wasn't great. I remember I watched Annie. I like really pivoted to really happy things, and I remember sobbing, shaking, crying when she started singing, the sun'll come out tomorrow, so you gotta hang on to tomorrow. I was done. I was like, when I'm stuck with a day, that's great. It was a wrap because she was fragile. Yeah. Me, I was so fragile during that time because it was just the unknown.
Yeah.
It was just the unknown. So yeah, no, I didn't deal with it very well.
No.
You?
Absolutely not. No, so for me, it was very similar. So throughout the lockdowns, Australians could go see their families in and out of things, but obviously we could not do so. No. And that's the reason that I will never, ever talk any ill about my ex's family is because like, in that time period when I couldn't have my family, his mom was always there. For Christmas, I would get gifts that were better than the boys would get. I'd get gifts better than her own sons would get. You know, the mom hugs? Like, I know I can't be your mom, but like I just want to give you this. And I was just like, Janet, I always got you, girl. Like, just
that's so sweet.
1,000%. Like,
that's so lovely.
And the way that it helped, it also hurt because it's like it was very nice, but it's not my mom's hug.
You want your mama's hug for
sure. So it helped in the time, but I rarely got homesick. I love my family, but every time I go back, they're still doing the same thing. They're vibing, they're living their own lives. But it's just like the fact that I could not, even if I wanted to, go over there.
Correct.
I think that's what fucked me up.
Yeah.
And it was just like, let me out.
Yes.
It's like a cat begs to get the door open because it's locked, and they open the door and they just sit there.
Yes. Like, I don't know what to do.
It's like, oh, y'all are out there. Okay, cool. This is nice. The door is open. I can just
at least it's open because it's just circumstances you literally can't go.
Can't do a single thing.
You can't do a single thing. And then my anxiety was so bad because I was just like, oh my God, what if something happens right now and I need to get back home?
Yeah.
And I need to get back home. And then thankfully my partner was like, nah, it's not going to happen like that. That's just
that's just in your head. It's always good to have people that can anchor you in these times because
thank goodness for that because my imagination, my doom imagination, which is the nickname for my anxiety, she was
I thought it was Nikki Azalea.
She was... That's what I'm gonna call her now. That's what I'm gonna call her from now on.
I mean, that's one way to make it smaller. If you give your anxiety a dumbass nickname and you laugh at it.
Yes. Exactly.
Like, stop it, Nikki Azalea. Get out of my head.
Yeah, leave me alone.
But all right, so that was the end of the third lockdown.
Woo.
And there was a bit of space. There was a couple months that passed, and we were just kind of vibing for a bit. The cases start going up. The rest of the world is getting vaccines, sort of. Yes. It's starting to happen around this time, I believe. It was maybe 2 months after that. There was the fears of lockdowns again. So by May, we had 80 days without cases. So we were doing really well because people were very serious about it. Because like, I don't want to go back in. It's like when you get out of jail, I'm not going back.
I ain't going back.
So people were following the rules for the most part. But when another lockdown came, because an outbreak happened, that's when the anti-lockdown protests started.
Yeah.
And that's those. At the time, we had a travel bubble with New Zealand where we could go over there for a little hot second. And that travel bubble lasted the longest Michelle's verses on Destiny's Child. Like, it was...
those were bridges.
Here comes happiness.
You know what?
I surround myself with positive things. I prosperity.
Do not do Michelle.
That's how long the New Zealand bubble was open for us. Because, like, it literally opened up, and then we got a bunch of cases. They're like, just kidding, close the door to New Zealand.
Yeah, because Jacinta over there, she don't play.
New Zealand handled it the best in the world. Like, they were like, pop, pop.
Yeah, they were, like, real strict with their border, and...
They didn't fuck around.
Again, can't blame them.
At all. Like, the way that they ran the country, the way they run the country is admirable. People are looking at New Zealand as a gold standard for a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that being one of them. When we were doing pretty good, again, 80 days without cases, there was a bubble for us to go to New Zealand. That was open for like a week and a half. And they're like, who y'all got over there? What's going on? I think one person came with COVID from Sydney to New Zealand, and they're like, Australia, y'all still dirty. Let me just close this door, letting all my good air out. So that travel bubble started and ended very quickly. QR codes were required for grocery stores at that point. And this was when the Delta strain started. And Delta was a lot more contagious than the original.
That's right.
And I was like, because when I was looking through this, I'm like, I remember there were different variants. It was like the main one, Delta, Omicron B2.
That's right, Omicron.
B2K.
Omicron per CIA.
And they just kept doing all these things. States kept closing to each other. That was the pettiest thing.
Yeah.
I think during lockdown 4 is when the states start closing to each other, and it was the most petty thing I could think of. They're like, well, y'all nasty. Let me close the door to New South Wales, but WA, you're okay. South Australia, all right. Queensland, iffy. And they were just doing that to each other. To be fair, Western Australia was close to everybody.
Everyone.
Because they were very much like New Zealand. They had next to no cases. They were living their best lives because Perth is the most isolated city in the world. Like,
correct. Ain't nobody going out there.
Nobody's going over there. So they were good.
Shout out to Perth.
I guess if you want to do that. No, okay, I'm playing. I still got my girls in Perth, but they were very much like they were living their best lives. I had friends back there, and we were like talking like, "Hey, what are you doing, bitch? I'm inside. What do you mean?" It's like, "Oh, I'm at the beach.
Yeah,
I'm getting drunk at this party." I'm like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
I hate you. So they were locked off to the rest of the country for a very long time, and I think they even opened travel to the UK from WA before we could go to WA here.
Wow!
And it was just a hot ass mess. But the fourth lockdown was also a very short one. I think it was only like 2 weeks.
Wow!
So it was very quick. Let me check my little notesies. Yeah, lockdown 3 was May 27th to June 10th, so 14 days. And because of the protests and locking to the other states, that was the main gist of that one, so there's nothing terribly important about that. But the one I think was the most scandalous for us was July. That was the 5th lockdown. The 5th lockdown, we're like, it'll be very quick and short, but the thing was, that was when the borders kind of opened. If you needed to move for urgent reasons, you could move in these times, but you needed a passport, you needed all these permits, you needed all this extra shit to do things. So people were allowed to move, but the thing was, there were removalists from New South Wales that moved people from New South Wales and came to Victoria without wearing masks.
Oh, no.
And then after they got back, they all tested positive, but they moved like 4 or 5 houses. They moved like 4 or 5 houses worth of people and had COVID, just breathing COVID all over all their stuff. all over Victoria. Literally that. And I was just like, the rest was like, are you joking? So at this time, I was working in the part of the government where I am the eyes and ears. Like, people they'd be daubing in each other. And for our Americans, daubing is just snitching.
Yes.
Australians are snitches.
They love to
there's no way to sugarcoat it.
There sure isn't. And you know it when you go around like the suburban areas and people have the tallest fences around their house and bushes and stuff like that to try and prevent their neighbors from being like, oh, what's going on over there?
Yeah. And people
are fucking nosy.
And they would just get ladders.
They
would be bored.
I'll just put my telescope through this bush and find out. Like,
this is suspicious. Let me invite myself over. Like, hey, friend, I brought you some Lamingtons.
Lamingtons. Shout out to Lamingtons. I know they're not.
Are they from New Zealand?
Ooh, that is a point of contention. We will discuss that at a later date.
Write it down.
We will discuss it at a later date.
Because Drew said we got to write down all of our.
Oh my God! Thanks a lot, Drew.
Daddy Drew gave us homework.
Daddy Drew. What about Daddy Drew? I just want to put into context because while we're talking about these case numbers and then people passing away from COVID, in Australia in 2021, there were 1,122 deaths from COVID.
As opposed to the million that was in America.
The million, as opposed to the millions.
And that perspective is huge, especially because here, Victoria had the most deaths out of any other state. Yeah. But in comparison, yes, even population-wise, percentage-wise, that's still nothing compared to America. But Victoria got shit on. The premier got shit on for having all these people dying. And unfortunately, it was mostly older people when it happened.
Now it's coming back to me. That's right, because COVID ended up getting into the aged care facilities.
Yeah, that was... And that's in one of the later lockdowns. We'll come at that. But on your deaths thing, a lot of those deaths were unfortunately older people. Yeah. And in America, it was whoever. Age didn't matter. It was getting everybody. Any kind of sickness, any kind of immune disorder, it got you. Despite the fact it was only 1,000, any death is not great. By no means am I excusing any death, but the fact that he was attacked so hard for 1,000 people dying, millions died around the rest of the world, it was just he did the best he could with what he's given, but.
Shit into the stick.
So that lockdown was very short. It was also only 2 weeks, but the thing is, people were snitching on each other. I was in a position where I could hear all the tea. People were oh, so-and-so was having this party till this time and this date, and here's their license plate, and I took some pictures, and they were sending in pictures, and they was doing all these things. Sending in they were trying to get, hey, you're not about to fuck this up for me. I got shit to do.
Yes.
And to one end, I understood it, but at the same time, it was savage. It was a mess. Crazy. It was a hot ass mess.
People were snitching on, People are snitching on everyone.
And they needed to. They honestly needed to, only because the sixth and second longest lockdown that we had happened 2 or so weeks after the fifth one.
Wow.
Because it was we were oh, we're kind of okay. We're kind of okay. We were not okay.
We weren't okay.
And at that point, we were getting vaccines. So the sixth lockdown, which was, how long was that bitch?
Yeah, because I remember because I ended up getting my vaccine in September of 2021, and I remember the day that I went to go, I had scheduled it. I was looking forward to it. It was in my calendar. I was amped to go get a shot. That was the day we had a damn earthquake.
Oh, yeah.
I was so mad.
I remember that, yeah.
I was so mad, and I was like, you know what? I don't even give a damn if there's an earthquake right now. Y'all ain't stopping me from getting a vaccine. It was my first shot, and I was like, nothing is going to stand in the way of me getting this vaccine.
After we saw what happened in the rest of the world, we started getting AstraZeneca, and it was initially it was only people 30, over 30, XYZ, and it was 30 and under, and then it was this, and then it was that, and it's they told us that by the end of the year, they'd open the borders, but you had to be double vaxxed. Yeah. And I was give me whatever, because AstraZeneca was the one that was really questionable. People were oh, that's heart issues, heart disease. I'm honestly...
People were, dissing certain vaccine stuff. I was definitely, I think I was affected by that a little bit, just because there was a bit of fear around it. There was a bit of fear mongering around the vaccines. So I was definitely I want to get whatever the most effective one is. Yep. And I think that was Pfizer.
Yeah. Moderna. I think Moderna came back and she's oh, that's cute, Pfizer. Guess what, bitch? 98 or some shit. It was
exactly.
some higher percentage.
And people were I'm a Moderna mummy.
And AstraZeneca was I'm 70. I'm bitch, just give it to me. I need to go home.
Yeah, correct.
I said, give it to me. That first one, I'm not going to lie to you, it knocked me straight on my ass.
Oh, yeah?
My first shot knocked me on my ass, but it was done by a day. And the second one felt like nothing. Yeah. But I was I need to get out of here, because they're borders are opening. I'm getting on the first plane. I booked my tickets, and I'm I scheduled my shots. I'm going to be good. And I just checked my phone when I went to Woolies earlier. Woolworths, a grocery store. I don't know if we've mentioned Woolworths before, but we call it Woolies. And there was a little, we used to have these little QR codes. I have your digital wallet on your phone. Yeah. I had one for my COVID certificate because it was necessary for things.
We had to prove, if you wanted to go into an establishment, you would have to show your vaccine certificate on your phone. And you would have the QR code, you would check in, And then you would have to show your COVID vaccine certificate in order for them to let you into the premises.
And it was run by the federal government. It wasn't a state thing. So it wasn't like, oh, I was vaccinated in Victoria. Like, no, you were vaccinated. It went up to the federal government, and the federal government sent you this sheet. And like, mine is still in here for some reason, but I'm just like,
crazy.
It's wild. Like, I have my 4th vaccine now. I don't know. They've been shooting me up. I don't actually know anymore.
Oh, you got your 4th one. Good for you, babe. I need to go ahead and get my 4th one because I ain't fucking around with these. Like, I ain't fucking with these viruses. Like,
it's the new flu. It's going to be around for a long time.
It is going to be around for a long time.
People stopped talking about it, but I know people were still getting COVID. People were still getting sick. Correct. We just had that announcement a little while ago that it was one of the top deaths in Australia last year, or this year so far. And like, that's worrisome, but at the same time, we're always dying from something realistically.
We are always dying from something realistically, and like where we can help it, we should try and do something. I am going to backtrack just a teensy-weensy bit, just because I think we may have just went past it.
Skeeted
past it. Oh, skeet. Fines. When people were getting fined.
Oh no, you said they were. I said they're getting fined for breathing too hard, and you said no, they weren't.
Yeah, I know, but But do you have the prices of some of those fines? Because some of those fines were hefty.
So it wasn't really like the fine range was like at most it was like $300, but it was just so many people had them. Like, I think there were a few cases where it's like, I'm fining you this maybe $1,000 things, but those all got wiped away. But
so like, gotcha. Because that's what I had heard. Because I knew like some people who were like got caught being out, and then they got slapped with like an $1,000 ticket.
There were a few fines that were like people who were like gravely breaking the rules, but they just followed up with the lawyers because Australians are always like, you can't do this. I got my lawyer. And they always had their lawyers out there, and it was just like, yes, we can all do terrible bargain actions. But essentially, there were a shit ton of fines for being out after hours, for not wearing your mask properly. We didn't talk about the masks. Like, obviously, masks were everywhere.
Masks were everywhere.
Masks were around the world.
I low-key miss them.
I mean, no one's stopping you from wearing a mask.
No, I know, but it was just like, I don't know. People just like, I liked the feeling of not being perceived. I liked it. I felt hidden.
I didn't like it.
Laughs
like,
hidden.
My face is still cute. Why am I covering this up? But one of the things, me being me, I always got the most colorful masks and little designs. So I love the mask. And at a certain point on dating apps, people would just be taking pictures in their masks. I'm like, yes, I get you're showing that you are mask compliant because there was a huge wave of anti-maskers.
It was.
But how am I going to see your face? This is a dating app, girl. Like, what's happening here? Why are you wearing your mask? Like, I still see people today with masks in their pictures. Yeah. And like, have you not updated this ever?
Yeah.
Or are you still, I mean, good for you. Like, I'm not going to judge. People are gross. There are germs everywhere.
There are germs everywhere. People are disgusting. And that was like the whole thing about the pandemic. It made you realize how disgusting people were. And the mask was like, it was just like this one little thing.
Or like they cover their mouth but not their nose.
Yeah. Or like people taking off their mask to sneeze. I was just like, you know what?
On all the signs teaching people how to wash their hands made me so upset. It was like, people don't know how to. Oh,
they don't.
Okay.
They do not.
Yep.
They sure don't. They sure don't. So I kind of miss that. I miss it. But
well, that's fully fair. But so in the 6th lockdown that we had, and that's when we're getting all the vaccines and everything.
Yes.
That's when they started doing a vaccine targeted rollout. Like, if a certain amount of people get their vaccines done, then we will stay open. We will get these restrictions eased because that's when it was like the hardest lockdowns. The curfew came back. All these things were very serious. No one to visit you, and everyone was just miserable. This was the worst one. Okay. This was the lockdown that was just like,
it broke us.
I was like, I can't be bothered. It was just so exhausting. We were just dead. So every day we'd be like, oh, everyone's got to get their vaccines because we got AstraZeneca. We started getting Moderna. We started getting Pfizer as well. So all these vaccines were available. People were getting them. I think at 60% double dosed, we start to get out of things. And then by the time, I think around the time your birthday happened, we got out? Yeah, we actually got out after your birthday, but we had a birthday picnic.
That's right, because that's when I dressed up like Doja Cat.
Yeah, so we dressed up like Doja Cat, and I was Afro Samurai, and you slapped on my new tattoos repeatedly.
I'm sorry. I had to like just laugh like, ha.
Pretty much, because I kept running from you when you were just like, come back. I have love to share.
I have an involuntary response to when I laugh. I have to.
I don't know if the listeners know this, but there's actually a barrier between Nicole and I in case she gets excited and hits and or kicks me. So I'm actually just, we're not even in the same room.
Yes, we are. Right here next to each other, and nobody will let me hit them when I laugh.
Yes, and literally her arms are crossed because like I got in trouble once.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard.
But the sixth lockdown was the most depressing one because they're like, that was the one they said was going to be 6 days, ended up being 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And the extensions just kept coming, everyone was watching. People stopped calling him Sexy Sutton. I think they still called him Sexy Sutton, but no one, even him showing up didn't make anybody happy. So it was just like, what do you want from us now?
He ain't that cute. No, but it was like, it ended up flipping because it was like, I think with that one, we thought it was going to be a short amount of time, and then like footage ended up getting released of like a family or something like that having like a private party.
Oh, yeah.
And
they're like, they laughed at COVID. They made a joke about COVID and someone recorded it.
In the video, and it was like 100 people in one house celebrating this thing. And it was just like, and they laughed at COVID, and then because of what they did, it ended up being like... They got
fined thousands of dollars. I remember that one.
Yeah.
They definitely got, I don't know what happened with their fines, but they definitely got fined thousands of dollars. And there was an outbreak.
Yeah,
on that.
Correct. Off of the strength of that.
And even though we were out of lockdowns,
bullshit.
And Dan Andrews was like, if we get these vaccine numbers, we're just going to stay open.
Yep.
And that's when the COVID cases started to skyrocket, like absolutely just pew into space. Space and time, fully just all over the place. And did you get to go home to America around that time period?
I think you and I went home around the same time.
Yes, because we came back roughly at the same time.
Yeah.
Because we met up in California in early 2022.
Because you had bought your ticket, and then I remember we were on the tram, and you were like, I'm excited to go home soon. And I was like, I want to go home. And then
and then you just bought tickets.
Yeah, and I just bought a ticket. And then I think I ended up leaving like a little bit earlier.
Yeah, you left a little earlier.
Because I found a good ticket, and I was
like a week before me.
And I was just like, I gotta go. I gotta see my fam.
And at that point, it was like to leave, you have to test negative like a week beforehand.
Yes.
And it was just like
you had to go get a PCR test
like the day before. And at that time, like we were outside again, air quotes, because they're like, hey, we're vaccinated, just do your thing. I think QR codes are still kind of involved, but it was mostly just like the Wild West, do whatever you want kind of thing. But at that time, it was like, I can't get COVID. And I looked at my ex, and I'm like, I'm not telling you what to do, but no, I'm going to kill you if I can't go home. And it's like, I'm not threatening you, but I am.
But I am, because it's like, I need to be able to go home. That's so funny. That's right, because the PCR tests, and then like the
rat tests.
And the rat tests.
And the rat tests selling out.
Because that was like the whole thing with like the background work or the other jobs that I was doing. It's just like you would have to go and have to get like a negative result, and then you would have to quarantine until you got your result.
Yep. And it was absolute hell. But the thing was I was really excited because one of the nights that my ex wanted to go out, I'm like, we can't go out because of this. And it's like, oh, fine. So we just watched the movie. Turns out the next day, the place we wanted to go had a huge outbreak. Like
my gosh.
Like 700 people were exposed.
700
It was circuit. Like
people.
Someone went,
circuit. Oh, yeah, it's a
and
wrap.
like 700 people were exposed because 2 or 3 people tested positive. So it was like they pretty much ruined like their whole lead up to Christmas for that, because it was still 2 weeks isolation at that point.
Yeah.
Then I went to America and I was like, yay, I did it. But then Omicron was like, what's up, bitch?
Oh, man.
And I'm like, because I was doing so much more for my trip. I don't know how far you went, because I know your sister's in LA.
Yeah.
Did you get to go home?
Yeah, I ended up going home to see my family. But then literally before, like, because my mom has a really big family. She's one of 8. My dad's one of 4. And we always do like a big Christmas at their house on the East Coast. And then like right before everybody was like supposed to come to my parents' house, everybody was sick.
Yeah.
Everyone got sick, which is so scary.
And it was absolutely. I had a New Year's Eve party, but half of them got. And I'm like, you know what? That's fair. Like, I'd rather you not come here and give me COVID, because I got to go home, because it was still 2 weeks of isolation at that point. Oof. And I brought my laptop just in case, but I didn't work from home at those weird hours for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Absolutely not, because it would be like, I would have worked till 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Who wants to hang out? I'm done working now.
Oh,
like I could do nothing here. I could do nothing there. It just sounded miserable. So I'm like, no, I canceled my New York trip. I was supposed to go see Wicked and Dear Evan Hansen,
shows.
And they couldn't get a refund, so I just gave away hundreds of dollars with that. I'm like, better than COVID.
Better than COVID. That's why I really couldn't understand when people were protesting and getting so upset here. And I understand, like, yes, lockdown sucked, but it was just like when we saw what was happening to our friends and family back home, we were like, how could you want anything else? New York was insane. My best friend, Shannon, shout out to Shannon, she's a pediatrician. And I remember them telling her, listen, you are going to be taking adult patients, because we are going to just take what we can get. Mm-hmm. And the shit she was describing to me, the stuff that she was saying, and she was just like, Nick, we have ice trucks outside that we're just throwing bodies into. And people who don't even have allergies or asthma are having problems breathing because the amount of bodies that they were burning going into the atmosphere, it was fucking with their breathing because that's how they could not keep up with the demand, which is Armageddon status. So I could not fathom how people were throwing tantrums and stuff here because
they don't have that connection. They don't know. They don't have that.
They have no clue.
They can see it and be like, oh, that's so crazy, but that's not here.
That's not here. Yeah, exactly.
That tunnel vision is absolutely translated through so many aspects of Australian lifestyle, and unfortunately is a way of life. Like we talked about in the racism episode, because it's not here, they don't feel the need to know about that or engage with it to that capacity. Again, this is not everyone, but it's enough where it's just like, this is odd. Like the fact there are multiple anti-lockdown protests, like the last 3 lockdowns, 6, 5, and 4 anti-lockdown protests. In the 6th one, actually, people started getting violent. Like the protests were more like riots. People were getting hit with bricks and the pepper spray was coming out. Like it was going down. And I was just like, I'm going to stay at home because y'all are wilding out.
It is really simple.
And it was too much. It was doing a lot. But when 2022 came and we were like at 90% double vax and triple vax and all these things is when it got kind of okay.
Yes.
And that was when the final issue, I guess the final cancellation was summer camp.
Yes.
The last big thing that I can remember was summer camp because it was supposed to be March 2022 and the COVID cases were high and like the density, they were like being really strict about density requirements because that actually messed with a lot of businesses here as well.
Yeah.
Density requirements. If you had a small venue, you can only have one person per like 4 square feet or whatever. And if you're a small venue, that's like 10 people. And you can't run a business with only 10 people in.
Sure can't.
And a lot of people shut down. A lot of people had to move their events to other places. And summer camp was going to be a huge thing. They got moved to November because COVID was like, they're like, oh, we don't want to risk it because if we get canceled or if there's another lockdown. No one was confident there wouldn't be any more lockdowns until maybe June, July.
2022, we were like really scared. We were moving very...
we were very scared. Treading softly for sure.
We were traumatized because we were just like, oh man, like, you know, everybody was afraid of going back into lockdown. But I think once we had a viable vaccine, Dan was like, you know what, if you guys get vaccinated, that'll be it.
Yep.
And I think he essentially kept that promise.
Yeah, he kept that promise. He was like, if we get to this number, we're not doing any more lockdowns. And that's when the COVID cases were doing thousands by the day, though. And that's when he got more shit because it's like, oh, we did all this work. We locked up for so long, and now we're still getting thousands of COVID. I'm like, well, we're vaccinated now, and less people are dying. Like,
less people are dying. That's what it is.
That's all that we could really do.
That's all we can really do.
Like, put you back in lockdown, people will freak out and do what they want anyway.
Correct.
But if you just get a shot, get 2 shots.
There you go.
And you'll still get sick. It would suck. Like, I got COVID on my birthday. Like, I missed getting COVID 2020 and 2021, but I got COVID 3 days for my birthday, and I had just moved into a new apartment. It was, as you remember, I was going to have, like, a housewarming / record party and do this whole thing, but I was like, I feel kind of... it feels kind of itchy.
Yeah.
I'll just do a PCR just in case because I tested like crazy because I was not trying to give anybody COVID. I was not be the one that got someone sick.
See, I'm glad you're at least like that because some people...
They didn't care. Some people, they'd be like, I have allergies. I'm like...
Yeah, I don't know about that bitch. You look like you're melting.
It's like them sniffles. You got a fever? Just
you look sweaty. you look like you're covered in a glaze.
Just gonna go shit in the street.
I mean, like I remember the first time I contracted COVID. I had gone to an acting class, and this one girl who was a very sweet girl, she was in class, and I thought she was just nervous about getting ready to perform her scene. So she just looked like worn and just looked like she was stressed and everything. And I'm like, are you okay? And she's fine. She's like, yeah, I'm just a little bit nervous. And then the next day, or no, that was Sunday. Tuesday, I woke up from a dream, and I remember in my dream, I took a COVID test, and the lines were pink. Yep. And I woke up, and I was like, I need to take a COVID test. And then I ended up taking it, and sure enough, that shit was positive as hell, and I sobbed because I was like, my perfect streak, it's over. And I think that was like May of 2022.
I actually remember that because that was around the time, because I was like, oh, let's do a podcast. We're like, get these ideas. And we bought the mics, but I got COVID. Then I got the flu. Then you got COVID. Then you went out of town. Then I went out of town. And then 2022 was over. And then we just kept doing the circle. And then we went to Bali, which was 6 months ago.
Why would you do this?
Because it's funny. We went to Bali, and like at Bali, we were talking to Luke, and it was like, we can do this. Let's do this. We're doing this. We're doing this. We're doing this. We're doing this. And then we recorded it. But like that was very much I think, after you got COVID, I got COVID again because I went out to a party one day and I walked in. Oh, I actually went to Revs for the first time ever. Oh. And for anyone who's not from Melbourne, Revs, Revolver, is a club that opens on maybe Thursday or Friday and closes on Sunday. Like they just Sunday. Don't, they close, they're open the entire weekend.
The entire week.
I walked in there and my first thing I said was, it feels like COVID in here. It was hella packed. It was humid.
Foreshadowing.
It was hella packed. It was humid. I was just like, I'm going to get COVID.
If I was a virus, I would love this environment.
Yeah, so like this is my breeding ground. Welcome to my party.
Oh my gosh.
The COVID Cabana.
The COVID Cabana. Oh, the hottest spot north of the Yarra. Okay.
South of the Yarra.
You know what I meant. I'm not good with math. I'm not good with compasses.
Not with math, compasses, time.
Anything with numbers.
How about directions? No. We're just gonna.
I mean, like in a seed, got you. No. On a map, no.
Understood. But yeah, like that's essentially the COVID journey that we dealt, and like the even
COVID
now,
motherfucking journey. Wow.
Like that was like a 2 years of a thing, and like when I was going through this, I was like, whew. And I'm sure like our Melbourne people that are listening were also just like, you're probably just thinking of different triggers and things. But like, so if you have a funny COVID story,
yes,
tell it to us, email us, message us, because we would love to read it. Because I think everyone experienced COVID so differently. And there'll be wild stories, funny stories, tragic stories. Send it to us. Tell us about it, because I think that would be a fun thing to hear about as well.
I would love it.
Because again, for our people who are listening in Australia that were not in Melbourne, they all know that we had a shitty bunch of lockdowns. Like it's still a recurring joke to my friends in Sydney and my friends in Brisbane and things. But we lived it. We survived it. I'm a survivor.
I'm not gonna give up.
I just got COVID twice, so I just won't stop.
Yeah, because I think I ended up because I had it in 2022 and then I ended up getting it.
Did you get it this year?
I had it this year. God, I can't remember when it was though. I cannot remember when it was. And I remember being like, I thought it was allergies.
Oh yeah.
Like I thought it was allergies, but as soon as I found out,
you get a little testy test, like, ooh, no.
Yeah, and then I'm happy to sit my ass inside. I don't want to get nobody sick.
No, that's
I'm not
saying
like I'm not a colonizer.
Exactly.
I'm not one of those people.
Here's a smallpox blanket.
Seriously, like just coughing in people's faces and stuff because I don't want to be out that bad where I'm getting people sick.
It's not even worth it.
Personally.
So one of the last things I want to talk about the COVID base was what happened afterwards. Like the main thing that I noticed, I guess, I feel bad for the kids who were in high school and everything during COVID. Like they were like the juniors and seniors, the year 12s and 11s for Australia. Yeah. But when they could go out to the clubs, they were monsters. They are monsters. It's been a year. They will come out in droves. They will get super fucked up, bouncing off the walls. And I understand they were locked in a cage and they're like, let me out, let me out.
Yeah.
So, should we bring the cage back for something? It's like, coming out of my cage and I'm not feeling just fine. And
personally. gotta be down because I want it all.
And they did want it all. Like anytime you see someone bouncing off the walls of the club, you know for a fact their year begins with a 20.
Oh my gosh!
And not even just age 20 is like 2005, something wild.
Come on, kids! Like it's just man. Like I get it. I get being excited to be out and everything, but come on, kids.
It's a lot.
Let's get it together.
It's a lot, but we love them. I mean,
we love them.
They're definitely not listening, but
they definitely aren't. They're like, we're not listening to this millennial podcast.
These old people.
Those old people. Whatever.
When I was 18, I was saying 30 was old. So
yeah, because you didn't know any better. But now I'm just like, yeah, you can call me old, but listen, baby, I got the best of the earth. We about to go down in this dumpster fire together.
That fuck around, find out. We're in the find out area. Fuck around and find out.
Find out era of the fuck around legacy.
Gotta love it. Did you have any more on your notes?
I mean, I have written a song, but I feel like we covered quite a bit. Because do you remember? And you probably don't even remember the song. Did you have My Ghetto Story? This is my story, true ghetto story. Then I won't sing it.
I mean, some people might. They might know it. They might like it. Like we can leave it in there and see how people react.
It's not long.
Exactly. Then why do you waste filling time not saying the song?
I know, because honestly, after talking about everything, I'm like, oh my God. There was so much that my brain just completely file deleted or file put away until we just talked about it all. And I was like, wow, we went through it. We went through it.
And that's why, like, when I was saying friendships escalate during this time period, I think friendships really escalated during the COVID period.
Correct.
They were just like, I only have 5 kilometer radius. You want to go to the park and get drunk? Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Even our picture is from a drunk COVID night. Like our icon on the podcast is a silhouette of us in the picnic park.
In the picnic, that's right. We dressed up fancy.
Just because.
And we had and then I think we ate a whole cake.
Yes.
We ate like an entire cake.
We definitely had a cake.
Just because, but I mean, okay, might as well, because I did write this song.
And people have been asking you to sing more anyway. So if you say it, you better sing it. You better sing.
It's more like rapping, but it is just because.
Come on.
All right. This is my story, my true lockdown story. I remember those days, and they were so long, and Dan Andrews said we had to stay home. Everyone was scared and terribly frightened, except for this bitch named Karen from Brighton. She was far from home with a dog on the beach. She said she already walked all of the streets. We were sitting at home, feeling all of the doom. That's when we jumped on the party on Zoom. That's it.
All right. We're going to ask for a full version of that. And you tried to not put that on the podcast. You want us to be famous, and you wrote a song and said no. Y'all, please write in and tell Nicole she's wild for trying to keep that from the world.
Because that's what was triggered in my mind. This is what I do with my trauma. I'm like, I'm going to turn it into music. Oh, I just hit the microphone. Okay.
That's because you wrapped your arm around me. This is what you're doing. I'm like, is that
to do the M from the YMCA. I don't know why.
And you're doing it. You're going to hit it.
I don't know why.
I don't know why.
If you think I have control of my limbs, I don't know.
Oh, I know you don't. I'm just watching, just like, I think in your head it's like Inside Out, where the emotions are all controlling a singular arm or limb. Like in Power Rangers, it's like I'm not. Well, it's more than, it's not just a rat. Nicole, please move your chair. Please move your chair.
I just hit my head on the microphone. Okay.
Yeah, you did.
I'm moving.
It's very much like, I've got the arm, I've got the leg. I thought I had the leg, and they're fighting for the leg. So unless we start doing the Dougie out of nowhere.
Pretty much. I'm like, my brain is like the little Ratatouille thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Absolutely, and her hand's still playing. We're gonna end there before Nicole knocks the microphone off the hook.
Okay, fine.
But
fine.
So we actually do have a wonderful treat next episode, don't we?
Oh, we do. Yeah, we're gonna have a wonderful discussion about hair, and I'm gonna have a lovely guest in, my dear friend Ella, who owns a salon in Collingwood, and we're gonna talk about black hair in Australia. And what that's like. And
it's so exciting. I am very excited for this episode. But until then, I'm Ri'chard.
I'm Nicole.
And this has been Melanated in Melbourne.
Melanated in Melbourne. This has been Melanated in Melbourne, a podcast that analyzes the Australian lifestyle from the lens of two Black American besties. Follow us at Melanated in Melbourne on Instagram and TikTok. If you have any comments or questions you'd like to ask us, then email us at melanatedinmelbourne@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.